I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
From Bloomberg, this is The Deal. Each week, you'll hear us in conversation with business icons.
This show will explore deal-making across sports, media, and entertainment.
That is a harsh lesson in business.
Sports is not as simple as bringing a bunch of big names together.
I didn't want to do another stomp you out speech.
It opened up so many more doors.
The show is called The Deal.
Listen to The Deal.
Listen to The Deal on Spotify.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Rival Recon here on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Harry Sethi. This is the penultimate Rival Recon of the season. Of course, after the Reds triumphed 4-2 over Tottenham Hotspur in Jurgen Klopp's penultimate game in charge at Anfield. On this week's pod, we'll be looking ahead to the upcoming game on the week, on Monday evening rather, against Aston Villa, high-flying Aston Villa, who look set for the Champions League next season, a remarkable achievement. And joining me on the pod this week to give us an insight into how this season has unfolded for Aston Villa, the success that we've seen from Unai Emery, and how he's managed to get this side albeit to qualify for the Champions League next season. I'm delighted to welcome on Gregg Evans from the 1874 podcast and The Athletic. Welcome back, Greg. Good to speak with you again.
Oh, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's good to chat. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Has been a while. And I think when it comes to Aston Villa, plenty to talk about. I think there's been a fantastic campaign by the side. I think huge progress made and difficult to know where to start, but I'm going to drag you back to the beginning of the season and just get you to give me your thoughts on, at the start of the season, with the squad, how it was, with the manager in place, what were I suppose, what were your aspirations and what did you think the side could achieve? And then let's compare that and contrast it with where we find them with just 2 games to go.
Yeah, I thought Villa were in a good position to make an improvement on last season. And last season they finished 7th and got into the Europa Conference League. So this season I felt it was all about trying to manage a European campaign and mix that in with a Premier League campaign as well. And I remember speaking to Tyrone Mings at the back end of last season, and he said that that was going to be the biggest challenge for Villa, to try and be competitive in both of those competitions. So at the start, I thought if Villa could finish higher than they finished last season, whilst also giving it a good go in the Europa Conference League, then it would be a very good season. The fact that they've actually, that they're going to finish 4th, I just don't see a set of results that that change the way their table is at the moment. I firmly believe Villa will finish fourth and qualify for the Champions League.
Arsenal fans disagree with you, Greg. There, I mean, they're expecting that.
I just can't see it. I just think. I even think if Villa don't pick up another point, they'll still get by.
Yeah.
Because I just think Manchester City, they need to win every game now, and that I just see them getting the job done against Tottenham. So. I've been saying for a few weeks, Villa are going to finish fourth and they're going to get Champions League. So if and when they do, what a brilliant season it's been, and even on the back end of the disappointment in Europe this week.
Yeah, of course, we'll touch upon that in a second. And I think whenever you see a side that's maybe like not traditionally been in the top 5, top 6 for a while, battling for that and up there in those positions early in the season, very often you get some of those like sort of derogatory takes about, well, yeah, when it all fleshes out, they'll drop off. And I heard some quite disparaging stuff about Villa early in the season. Someone actually did put me on the spot really early on and asked me to name my top 4. I won't lie to you. It wasn't in the order that it's currently in. But Villa were absolutely in my top 4 based on what I'd seen at that stage in the season and actually what I'd seen of Spurs. And I thought that the chance of consistency was there for Villa. It was just going to become dependent upon fitness of players and, as you say, managing the European campaign as well. As you say, find yourself in that 4th position at the moment. It would require some unlikely results for Tottenham to actually take your spot in that Champions League place. I wanted to ask you, I mean, what you've made of how Emery's conducted this campaign and why you think ultimately Villa find themselves in the position in which they're in. I mean, there's a couple of key players we can talk about, of course, in terms of who's played a starring role, and Tyrone Mings, who you mentioned there, of course, hasn't actually played that role this season given the injury he suffered. But yeah, what would you say are the key factors as to sort of why Villa find themselves here?
I think it's a combination of a few things. The fact that Emery had the majority of last season to really instill his plans and start working on patterns of play that he wanted his team to execute in the times ahead. So last season was almost like a trial run for him. This is what we're going to do with the players. This is how we want you to play. If it works, then great. If it doesn't, then we're going to really give it a go next season with that background work that we've got. The fact that Villa got so many good results last year, I think, just gave them a bit of momentum going into this season, and I felt like they recruited really well. Bringing and certainly went quite big, didn't they? Buying Moussa Diaby for £50 million, Pau Torres for nearly £30 million. These are international players who are coming in to improve the team. So Villa had a really good back end of last season, and then they strengthened in the summer. So they went into this season looking really strong, I thought. And over a good few years now, the squad has been put together and assembled really well. I think there are lots of players at a good age, also with a bit of experience in there as well. And Villa were kind of the club a few years ago where they were saying to players, come to Aston Villa and we'll take you on this journey. We will get you into international teams. We will take you higher up the Premier League. And it's all well and good saying that, but they really have done that. They've taken Emi Martinez, for example, as off Arsenal, and he wasn't even a regular starter for Argentina. And look what he's done now. He's won the Copa America and he's won the World Cup with them, while also becoming one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Brought players like Emi Buendia, Matty Cash, Ollie Watkins, players that have spent a lot of time in the Championship but are now also international players, and well established in the Premier League. So I felt that Villa had a very strong squad with a bit of experience, and the majority of this season, I'd say up until probably around about sort of March time, when injuries really started kicking in, they looked strong. But inevitably, when a team suffers so many injuries, the results are going to suffer. And we've seen it at Liverpool a little bit, haven't we? When they had their injuries, we've seen it at Tottenham this season, Newcastle, Manchester United. Arsenal and Man City are probably the only two teams that haven't really had many injuries. Yet even when Man City had Haaland and De Bruyne out and Rodri missed one game, they lost. So it's tough to do it without the key players, and Villa have had that for a long time now over these last few months.
I think you're completely right there. I think every side has dealt with injuries this season, but I think there's a couple. Certainly City and Arsenal appear to have been less affected, and Arsenal especially. So I think just that group, the age of the group, been really lucky there. I mean, part of it's luck, part of it's obviously the good work that's being done by the team and actually making sure those players are in the best possible shape to play week in, week out. But I think the likes of Saka, Odegaard, those really key, Declan Rice certainly, players for them, haven't missed very many. I think there was maybe a brief period where Declan Rice was away for a little bit and things looked a bit shakier, unsurprisingly so. So it is how you deal with those situations. And you go back to the start of the season and, you spoke about Emery having time to implement sort of the system he wanted, and lots has been made this season of the high line and how often you catch teams offside, and just how effective that has been. A high risk strategy, but one which when it does pay off is has huge bonuses to it. That opening game against Newcastle was probably in the end quite a useful example of everything not to do with the high line, given how the game went that day. But I wanted to ask you just sort of how, if there had been any sort of noticeable tactical tweaks that you've seen from Emery this season, or particular things that you've noticed when watching Villa that you think have been really beneficial to sort of, or the reasons behind why we find themselves in the Champions League spot at the moment.
Yeah, there are a couple of things. I mean, we can look at the amount of goals that Ollie Watkins has scored, for example. It's great to have I know it's a very basic answer, but it's great to have a goal scorer who can score so many goals, and he has been the best striker in the division this season, and the most durable because he's played so many minutes. So that certainly helps. Villa have ploughed a lot of time and a fair bit of money into set piece coaching, and have had a lot of success from that. They have scored more goals from set pieces than any other club in Europe. When you include in the European competition as well.
Really, didn't know that. That's
The goal scoring figures in the Premier League aren't quite as high. I think Arsenal and maybe Everton might be the top two, but I think
makes sense.
But when you combine the European games, Villa are the best in Europe. So a lot of work's gone into that. And just to touch on something previously, when Steven Gerrard was in charge of Aston Villa, they had the same set piece coach, but set piece coaching and the sessions were very much an afterthought. It was go and have 10 and 15 minutes with the set piece coach Austin McPhee, and then we'll see you all in the changing room after, or in the dining room or whatever. So, but with Emery, he's very big on set pieces, and he likes to oversee all the sessions himself, and really reinforce the message. So that's what another area where Villa have been very strong from, and maybe underreported. I think also with Emery, he very much has a plan B as well. It's not a case of always playing the high line and playing the same way out from the back in the build-up. Sometimes we've seen Emi Martinez and the defenders bypass the midfield and go long, and Ollie Watkins has broken into the channels and pulled off defenders and then brought the midfielders into play that way. Other times we've seen Villa be very patient and build up from the back slowly and almost drag teams out of their own position and then break that way. Been another brilliant season for Leon Bailey, a player who myself as a former Villa reporter and lots of other supporters also said that he's just not going to make it at Villa. He's just not good enough, and the fact that he has gone on to have his most successful goal scoring and assisting campaign is just another example of how Emery gets the best out of players. So I think the real key is.
Hello there. Have you ever found yourself getting ready to watch the Liverpool match? You've got your mates round, you've got your drinks, you've got your snacks, you're all set to go. It's going to be a good day. And then you find out, the game's not actually being broadcast in your region. There's the heartbreak, there's rage, there's despair, there's fury. You're upset. You're looking for a solution. Well, we've teamed up with NordVPN to bring you a game-changing solution. That's right. With NordVPN, you can switch your virtual location to a country where the game's on live. It's like having a global ticket to sports, TV shows, and movies from all around the world. And here's the best part. If you go to nordvpn.com/Anfield Index, you'll score the best discount on your NordVPN plan. Plus, our link gives you 4 extra months free on the 2-year plan. And that's what we call a winning streak. And if you're sitting there and you're thinking, what if it's not for me? What if I don't like it? What if I'm not getting the use of it? Don't worry about it. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so it's totally risk-free. I've been using NordVPN to catch all the Liverpool matches and TV shows that I'd normally miss out on. It's totally transformed both my weekends and my TV watching. And not only that, not only does it give me access to stuff from all around the world with the click of a button, it keeps all my data safe. It means that the miscreants, the ne'er-do-wells, what my grandmother would have called scallywags, who lurk on the internet to try and steal your information, can't get to your information. NordVPN keeps it safe for you.
I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
From Bloomberg, this is The Deal. Each week, you'll hear us in conversation with business icons.
This show will explore deal-making across sports, media, and entertainment.
That is a harsh lesson in business.
Sports is not as simple as bringing a bunch of big names together.
I didn't want to do another stomp you out speech.
It opened up so many more doors.
The show is called
The Deal.
Listen to The Deal.
Listen to The Deal on Spotify.
Another day is here, and you're ready for it. What to wear? Check. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Check. Planning for what's next and how to save for it? That's where Bank of America can help. For your financial to-dos, Bank of America has experts ready to help get you closer to your goals. Get started at one of our local financial centers or 24/7 in our mobile banking app. Find a location near you at bankofamerica.com/talktous. What would you like the power to do? Mobile banking requires downloading the app and is only available for select devices. Message and data rates may apply. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC.
So don't let geo-restrictions bench you this season. Visit nordvpn.com/Anfield Index and make sure that you're in the game, no matter when or where it's being played. Remember, it's not just sports. It's your all-access pass to binge-worthy TV shows and blockbuster movies from all around the globe. NordVPN literally unlocks the world for you and keeps you safe from the world. So don't miss out. Head over to nordvpn.com/Anfield Index and let the fun and games begin.
So many individuals have been improved under Emery, and also the collective are just so much better as well.
We hear a lot about Emery and sort of the level of detail that he goes into in his preparation, just how he does some of the work that ordinarily or at other clubs would be sort of delegated to different teams. He likes to do it himself, that kind of analysis. And I'm not surprised that he's turning up to these set piece sessions as well, because he very much is an obsessive in that way. And it obviously has plenty of benefits. And you mentioned Leon Bailey there. I think, from the limited glimpses I've seen of him as well, the question, the end product of his game, right, in terms of like clearly very, very talented, the pace there in terms of sort of the effectiveness on the counter, but wondered whether he would put it all together. And it's been great to see him be so authoritative in games this season. You meant there's a couple other players in there who've had fantastic seasons. Watkins is very hard to look past, but I wanted to ask you, Bailey, Watkins, who have been those real standout players this season, along with the goalkeeper, who's, I think it's impossible not to mention him. Who have been those standout players? Because I think when I've looked at Villa, the ones I've always liked, to be honest, I always liked Ezri Konsa and thought that he was massively overlooked. I think he's still heavily overlooked in terms of his ability. And actually, when you lost Mings, I thought, well, perhaps not the worst thing in the world here. Konsa is huge, and of course Pau Torre being brought in as well. I would love to hear from you who you think have been the standouts.
Yeah, I just think back to sort of December time when Villa had just beaten Man City and Arsenal in back-to-back weeks, and they had a very settled team at that point. It was you could pretty much name it. It was Emi Martinez, Diego Carlos, Konsa, Torres, Digne, Douglas Luiz, McGinn, Tielemans, Kamara, and then Bailey and Watkins sort of up front. And I think it's such a shame that Boubacar Kamara picked up an injury quite soon after that, and also that Pau Torres missed a period straight after that as well. Because I think if those two had stayed fit for a little bit longer, then Villa's incredibly unlikely title push, which at that point was very valid, even though nobody thought they would sustain it, might have just gone on a little bit longer. And then if you get to February time and you are still in the mix, anything can happen from there. So I really feel like Villa were shortchanged a little bit because they lost Kamara and Torres during those periods, and at that point the two of them were brilliant. Kamara was breaking up play, to such a good effect, but also really starting off the moves from a sort of deep lying midfield position. So the two of them, I think, have been fantastic. Recon, it's been another great season for him. Finally got an England call up. Finally represented the country that he wanted to play for. So another great season for him. Douglas Luiz is back in the Brazil squad. Another great season for him. He scored so many goals as well. I think he scored over 10 goals for a defensive midfielder, which is pretty incredible. And then, McGinn has sort of led the line as the captain and the leader. And even Yuri Tillemans, when he's came into more towards the back end of the season, he was playing really well, and he got injured a couple of weeks ago. And since that injury, Villa have really struggled in midfield. So I really don't like to make excuses, because so many other clubs have struggled with injuries. And I just look back to sort of Tottenham's start to the season. If they didn't suffer so many setbacks, how would they might have kicked on. And Newcastle, I mean, you just feel like Newcastle have had 8 or 9 players missing almost every week. It's incredible, and on the back end of their brilliant season. But it does feel like Villa have really suffered, because you look at the bench yesterday and they had like 5 under-20s on there, and you just think, how has it got this bad? They've got so many players out.
I think I'll for a long time think back to that Carabao Cup final, just in terms of the squad for Liverpool that took to the field, and the squad that ended the team that ended the game as well. Yes, it was one of the adults who ended up grabbing the winning goal in the end in Virgil, but yeah, just to see the fact that Klopp's pretty good when it comes to sort of like promoting younger players from the academy and giving them a go, but it wasn't necessarily out of choice. At times it was completely out of necessity, and yeah, they really stood up. And I think you're seeing that certain squads where perhaps they don't have that depth, or a bit less, a bit more reluctant to sort of give opportunities to younger players. I think some of those squads who haven't rotated too much have really been hurt. I think Eddie Howe early in the season, there's definitely some reluctance to seem to rotate, and maybe just the confidence in the players that were there around the squad. And yeah, that tight-knit group that he likes just got worked and worked and worked. It was I think I can't remember what game it was, but there were a few games where it was just very apparent just how shattered they were. They had about 5-10 minutes in them. You mentioned there Villa, you mentioned City, Arsenal. There's been so many great wins, so many great performances this season. Which ones do stand out in your head as the ones that are going to live long in the memory? I mean, the Ajax game, I suppose, has to be in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows how great Villa's season has been, because there has been so many, wonderful performances. I think back to, even at the very start of the season, I think, beat Everton 3 or 4-0 very, very comfortably early on, and then there was the 6-1 home win over Brighton, who were a similar sort of position team as Villa last season. They finished above them last season. Then to go and beat them 6-1 so early in the season kind of, set the stall up for Villa, and this is what they're going to do. There was a decent performance away at Tottenham, but then, the two that really stood out. Well, the one that really stood out, I think, was the Man City, victory. Villa were genuinely, they were brilliant that day. And I spoke to Ron Atkinson, who's now 85 or 86 years old, and former Aston Villa manager, and somebody who's obviously followed football for all of his life. And he said that he thought the victory over Manchester City was the best performance, the best Aston Villa performance he's ever seen in his life. So that he's like 3 times the age of me. So it's like, he certainly knows what he's talking about. So that was the real standout one. But yeah, there were some good moments in the Europa Conference League as well. Obviously, losing at Lille but winning on penalties was a big one to get Villa through to the semi-final. And sadly, it didn't quite go to plan in the semi-final against Olympiacos. But yeah, so many good memories to look back on this year.
Yeah, it's been magnificent, really. So many wonderful games, as you mentioned. And we find ourselves at the end of the season here. You started the pod talking about how you think the Champions League qualification is more or less shorn up with the injuries, with the squad the way in which it is, with the way in which the table is at the moment. What are you expecting? Because I've sort of been dreading this game for a while, just because I'd seen Villa's home form. I said that's not a great place to be. I hope by the time we go there, an ultimate game of the season for Villa and for Liverpool, that things are calm. And Villa, whilst of course pride is a huge thing, it won't be as ferocious as it was at points during this campaign. What kind of game are you expecting? Because as you say, come at this period where there's been 3 consecutive losses here with the European campaign coming to an end as well. I'm sure there's going to be a real desire amongst the group to bounce back in the last home game of the season. It's going to be tough, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, for want of a better phrase, Villa really are on their arse now. They are struggling badly now. The players that are being asked to play are tired, and they've played a lot of games now. They're mentally drained, I think, because it's just been a season where so many of the players aren't used to playing regular European football and being asked to go again. So many times, just keep going again. But they've done a lot of the hard work up until April. I think they've lost 3 in a row, but haven't won. And have won 1 in 6 now. So they're in a real bad sort of run of form. And look, to be honest, it should have been 4 defeats in a row, because the Chelsea game, I don't know if you've seen that, but Villa drew 2-2 and, should have lost that game. Chelsea were by far the better team. So I'm almost looking at it like Villa are on the back of 4 defeats and certainly 4 bad performances. And I just think it's going to be really hard against a pumped up Liverpool team who, they haven't got anything to play for, but they're playing with a little bit of freedom now because, they're just trying to enjoy the last couple of games under Klopp and move on to the new era. But for Villa, they've got to look at it as it's bit of a cliche, but it's a cup final for them, isn't it? They've got 1 home game left, and they only need a point to secure Champions League. I think, if my maths are correct, or a win.
I think so.
I think it's a point, isn't it? But if they, they're just not. They need to know they've got to go and get the job done. So I'm sure the fans will get right behind them. But I think the players, they're running on empty now. So it's going to be tough for them to get any points out of the last 2 games. But I still do think that will be enough to get 4 for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose at this point as well, I mean, what are the expectations for the next season? Given how the side's kicked on this campaign, Champions League qualification, the excitement, the opportunities that come with that, the money that comes with that, obviously, that will help with future investment. How do you see the side kicking on? And if they are going to kick on, are there some obvious areas that you think need to be addressed?
Yeah, and not so much really. There's not a particular position that I feel Villa are very, very weak in, and there's not a particular department that I think needs strengthening. I think first and foremost, they need a good rest. They need to reset and look back on this season and think this has been a success. And if it wasn't for the injuries, then it could have been even better or even more enjoyable towards these final weeks and months of the season. I think they will need to sell a couple of players to generate some funds to help them go again in the market, because Emery will want to bring in some new players. I think they probably need another striker to take a little bit of the pressure off Watkins, because I don't see another season where he plays so many games and does so well. I just think it's going to eventually take its toll. He needs to, at times, be rested. He can't play every European game, every Premier League game, every cup game. It's just they need somebody else there. So that's an area where they probably need to look at. And I think maybe just trying to strengthen the squad a little bit, moving a couple of the fringe players on and just bringing in a bit of better quality, because they're stepping up a level. They're going to be playing Europe. They're going to be playing Champions League football next year. They'll get 8 games guaranteed because of the new system and the new format. So, if they want to progress from there, they're going to need to A, get their injured players back, but B, probably bring 1 or 2 more in as well, just to strengthen it.
And finally, just because it's always great to get fans' perspectives who don't follow Liverpool all season, although I know, for example, that you are from Liverpool, I want to ask, just what you've made of Liverpool's campaign. Not the fairy tale ending that at one stage it perhaps looked like it could be. I was always very quick to kill any suggestion, any murmuring of the word quadruple. I think ultimately, I think my perspective on it is the pursuit of that in the end caught up with the squad and probably didn't learn the lessons of previous efforts at that. And you had a very tired looking group towards the end that sort of couldn't deal with what I imagine was just obscene pressure, right, in terms of sort of the title race, but also it being the, I have to do it for Klopp pressure as well. But would love to get your perspective on how you think the campaign's gone, and your general thoughts on Liverpool as this Klopp era does come to an end.
Yeah, nice, easy one for me to answer because, I am a Liverpool writer
exactly.
for the Athletic now. So I haven't been working since January because I've been off on paternity leave. We get 6 months off at the Athletic, which is incredible. I've had some great times with my newborn son, and that's been brilliant. So I've been watching Liverpool not from Anfield and not from the games, but more from the telly in the last couple of months. And it's been sad to see them drop off, because when I left in December for my 6 months period off, they were in a great position, and you thought, I was thinking, I actually genuinely did think the quadruple was possible, because I'd been to a couple of the Europa League games, and I just felt that Liverpool were going to be really strong in that competition. And even at that point, Leverkusen were very early into their campaign, and I didn't think that they would sustain it over the course of the season. So it always looked like Liverpool were the strongest team in that Europa League. So to see the Atalanta game go so horribly wrong, and then the Crystal Palace game follow so closely, for the league to sort of slip away. Just look back to those sort of League Cup celebrations, and it felt like everything was gearing up towards a really brilliant, exciting finish. And I always felt that the Premier League would be tough for them, but I did think that they could get perhaps the other two, the FA Cup and the Europa League. But no, I mean the key for me, really, I think, is that at the first half of the season, the forward line was almost like a cheat code for Liverpool. Every one of them was contributing, and even when Liverpool weren't playing very well,
exactly,
a striker or a forward would jump in and get a goal. But then it's just gone the opposite way, hasn't it? This time, Nunez has struggled, Jota's been injured, Salah's form's dipped since the AFCON. And Luis Diaz has had a few, he's missed games with the issues he had with his father and so on and forth. So it's been a shame that they've dropped off. But, hopefully for some of the younger players and the new arrivals, this experience will make them stronger next season and give them a better chance of pushing.
Yeah, I think the Champions League qualification being there, the good foundations to build upon. It sounds as though Arne Slot is going to be next manager as well, so we'll see sort of how what magic he can work. I think there's quite a lot around player development mentioned with him as well, and also availability and fitness, which I think is always always great. I'm sure the sports science department delighted that he's going to be fully trusting of their work. Yeah, I think for me, like I said, I think it was just Liverpool ended up going for a bit too much, and the squad got tired. But I do look at it again and think, feels harsh to blame it on the forwards, because if you don't concede as many goals, then you don't have that pressure. But just with the sheer number of chances Liverpool did create, even when they did come unstuck at that point in the season, I can't help but think if Diego Jota hadn't been injured against Brentford when he was on fire, then perhaps some of that pressure would have been taken off the likes of Salah returning from the long injury layoff that he's had in his career, and the Nunez question, the Nunez Diaz question, I think, in my mind, I'm not sure whether you can have both of them, because I don't think both of them necessarily are ever going to be killers. And so I wonder whether there'll be a choice this summer between who has the highest ceiling and who is stuck with. But that's one for Michael Edwards. But anyway, Greg, really appreciate you coming on as well. I mean, it's always a
pleasure.
At this point in the season, there's less to play for, and less on the line necessarily. But I think it's been a wonderful campaign for Aston Villa, and really appreciate your perspective.
Pleasure. Thanks so much, Harry. Thanks for having me on.
And for all the listeners, there'll only one more of these Rival Recon episodes for the season. It's been a long one, been an emotional one. Will be an emotional end, I'm guessing, as well. There'll be one more of these pods ahead of that last home game of the season against Wolves on the 19th of May, the last game for Jurgen Klopp at Anfield, if you weren't aware. But we'll be back again ahead of that game. But between now and then, do check out all the other great content on Anfield Index Pro.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index, and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.